Hello, and welcome to Para New Orleans, the Paranormal New Orleans podcast, where we tell tales of the strange, the scary, the spooky, paranormal, and otherworldly from across New Orleans, Louisiana, and beyond. Tonight's submission comes from one of our subscribers, Judd. And Judd submitted his real life experience for us to share. Thank you, Judd. And thank you for being a subscriber and a supporter of Fat Girl Freestyle and Para New Orleans. Sit back, relax, and as always, enjoy. I live in small town Kansas, a town of maybe 1,500 people. In 2022, my then girlfriend and I decided to move in together. We searched and found the perfect little home for us to share. It had just enough space, and of course, the price was definitely right. We went to see it, and we immediately fell in love with the space. So we decided this was it. We would move in. We put our own little touches to make it home, for us to be comfortable. And for the first few days, things were good. We were happy to finally be in a space together. And then one day, I'm laying down in the living room taking a nap, and my girlfriend is in the restroom taking a shower. And then suddenly I hear her hollering my name, and she comes running out of the bathroom, fussing, asking me, why am I banging on the bathroom door while she's taking a shower? Now, I am a bit of a jokester. I do from time to time like to prank her for fun. But this wasn't one of those times. I was really taking a nap on the sofa. And I told her this. But of course, she didn't believe me. But I did my best to convince her. She just went back to the shower telling me to leave her alone. And I just sat there wondering, was she pranking me? Or did someone really bang on the bathroom door? I hadn't had any strange experiences, so I just kind of shrugged it off. Figured maybe she was trying to be funny. And I laid back down and went back to sleep. We forgot about that incident until a few nights later. I felt a burning sensation on one of my legs. It was so intense, I sat straight up in bed and I touched my leg because it really felt like it was on fire. I pulled the leg of my shorts up and I started feeling in the dark with my fingers. And I could feel 3 ridges on my leg. I turned on the lamp on the bedside table so that I could get some light and get a better look. And there were 3 long scratches on my leg. And I thought to myself, what the hell is this? I looked over at my girlfriend thinking maybe she had accidentally scratched me in her sleep. But she was still in the same position with her back to me that she had fallen asleep in. She had never moved. Besides that, she kept her fingernails trimmed and neat. I looked at my own nails just to make sure I didn't scratch myself. I checked the blanket, maybe a tag or something. I just sat in bewilderment with my leg burning with these 3 scratches. And then I was reminded about my girlfriend's experience a few days earlier with the banging on the bathroom door. But the house didn't feel strange. I didn't feel any weirdness or anything spooky or scary. I'd already been there several times by myself. My girlfriend hadn't told me about any other incidents. So again, I rationalized and said, well, maybe I scratched my leg against something earlier at work or somewhere here in the house and I didn't notice. Anything to put my mind at ease because, well, what was the alternative? I turned off the light, got back under the covers, and slept a little closer to my girlfriend that night. I slept, but barely. The next day, while we were up and moving about, I wanted to ask her to take a look at the scratches on my leg. I wanted to ask her if she had had any other strange experiences. But what proof did I have? What evidence was there besides the knocks on the bathroom door, which she could have very well been playing a trick on me? I decided against it and said I would just keep quiet about it. Another week passed and things were still quiet. There was nothing weird or odd going on, at least not to my knowledge. Now that I'm sitting here telling you about this. Maybe there were things, and I just didn't want to acknowledge them at that time. Because there was the time I went into the kitchen to make myself a bowl of cereal. And I know for a fact I put the bowl, the spoon, and the box of cereal on the counter together while I turned to open the refrigerator and grab the milk. But when I turned back around, the bowl and the spoon had been returned to the dish rack where I got it from. I just stood there for a moment. And then I shook it off because I had been working long hours. I hadn't been getting enough sleep. And I could have very well just imagined myself grabbing that bowl and that spoon from the dish rack and putting it on the counter, and I didn't physically do it. So I just grabbed them and made my cereal, went to the living room to watch TV. My girlfriend came in from work a short time after, took her shower, decided she was going to make herself a bowl of cereal too. And when she went into the kitchen, she hollered my name and asked me where the cereal was. I told her it was on the counter. I just left it there. She said, "No, it's not here." I got up. I went to the kitchen. No cereal box on the counter. So I said, well, maybe I'll put it back in the cabinet. Went to the cabinet. No cereal. I opened the refrigerator thinking maybe I put it in there by accident when I put the milk up. We looked high and low in that kitchen for that box of cereal that I know was still more than half full. But it was completely gone. My girlfriend even looked in the trash thinking that I had eaten it all and just didn't want to tell her. Another unexplainable thing. But she blamed it on me and ended up going to bed. I know I left that box of cereal on the counter. And now whatever was happening was getting to a point where I could not ignore or deny there was something strange about this house. I didn't even want to finish my cereal after that. I put my bowl in the sink, turned off the TV, and went to bed. Not because I was tired, but because I was a little afraid to sit up in the living room by myself. The next day, I was at work. My girlfriend was at home, and she calls me and she says, "Ha ha, very funny. I found the box of cereal in the washing machine." Something that should have been funny terrified me because I know there was no way I put that cereal in the washing machine. She just chalked it up to another one of my practical jokes. I didn't bother to correct her. I didn't want her to be afraid to be in the house by herself because it was still a few more hours before I would be off and headed home. So I just laughed it off with her and went back to work. I had to figure out what was going on with this place. I wasn't amused by any of the happenings, especially the scratches on my leg that were still evident. I decided to give the landlord a call and ask him about the history of the place, who was there before us. He was very elusive in his answers, very vague. But he insisted that everything in the house was fine, that there had never been any reports of any strange activities, that perhaps I was just working too much. I ended our conversation and decided I would just ask some of the nearby people in the area if they knew anything about the place. A little bit more time goes by and things are quiet. I'm starting to get a sense of comfort that maybe, just maybe, the incidents that occurred, maybe they had some type of simple explanation that I just couldn't find at the time. But my girlfriend and I were doing well. We were comfortable. And eventually the incidents were out of our minds until we were up late one night watching television, snacking on popcorn in the living room, cuddled up on the sofa. And outside of the window, right across from the sofa, we could hear a very light tap on the window. Indistinguishable at first. In fact, we thought it was a sound effect in the movie we were watching. But then it got a little louder. Tap, tap, tap. And we looked at each other. And she said, "What was that?" I said, "I don't know. Something outside. Maybe a bug landed on the window. Let's just finish watching the movie." So we settled back in, went back to watching our movie, eating our popcorn, cuddling, not thinking anything about whatever was outside that window. And then undeniable that there was something outside that window. And our skin went cold. And I immediately broke out into a sweat. My girlfriend started silently crying. We were both trembling. She looked at me, and I put my finger to my lips to tell her, "Don't say a word." Because whatever was out there, we're going to pretend that we don't even hear it. I refused to get up and go see what was out there. It was tapping so hard, I thought the window was going to break. But we were both too scared to move, to even run to the back of the house and lock ourselves in the bedroom. So we sat there, frozen, staring, trembling. We really thought whatever was out there was going to break the pane of glass. And come in. And the two of us would be there, stuck on the sofa, frozen with fear. The air was heavy, thick. Our breath was so heavy and loud, like it was amplified. And then we heard these low growls coming from outside the window. It was so frightening. My heart jumped into my ears, and its beating was the only thing I could hear. And then I started to cry. And my girlfriend pulled herself in closer. She said, Judd, I'm so scared. What the hell is that? And I just shook my head. Because it didn't sound like anything on this earth. We sat there still for what felt like hours, waiting, listening. And then nothing. It felt like hours, but it had really only been 5 minutes. My girlfriend hopped up off the sofa. And she said, Judd, there's too many strange things going on around here. And I don't want to stay here for another night. I asked her what else she had experienced. And that's when she started to tell me about hearing her name called when she was in the house by herself. Or knowing she put something in one place and it ended up in another, or it just completely disappeared. Handprints on the bathroom mirror when she gets out of the shower. And she knows they're not mine because they're so huge. The fingers are grotesquely long. She didn't want to say anything because she thought it was because she wasn't getting enough sleep. I told her. That we could leave the next day. But she insisted that we leave that very night. Contact the landlord tomorrow and let him know we would be moving out. She didn't even care if we got the deposit back or not. I told her, do you really think it's a good idea for us to leave out of here tonight after what just happened? And she thought about it. And she said, you're right. We'll leave out first thing in the morning. We ran to the back of the house, slammed our bedroom door closed. I pushed the dresser across the door just in case. And we just sat up all night holding each other, neither one of us able to close our eyes. Every sound we heard, we expected to hear that low, terrifying growl behind it. As soon as the sun was up, we threw a few things together and headed to her mother's house. We told the landlord we would be moving. We stayed by her mom for a few days, but we still needed to go back and retrieve our things from the house. I thought it would be safe to go back during the day while the sun was out. I was wrong. I had some friends helping me move the larger pieces of furniture out. They were outside arranging our mattress, a box spring, a few other things on the bed of the truck. I was in the living room unplugging the TV, my game console, getting everything in order to be ready to load onto the truck. Suddenly I felt the floor vibrating. I stopped for just a split second, but said maybe it's just a truck passing, and continued winding up the cords. And then I heard the footsteps. Slow but deliberate. And I knew it wasn't my friends because I could hear them outside talking. And I was frozen again, too afraid to turn around, just shaking down to my very soul. I could hear whatever it was breathing. I felt its breath on the back of my neck. And then Judd. Judd. I never moved so fast in my life. I burst out the door. I told my friends, let's go now. They said, what about the rest of the stuff? I said, I don't want it. And I hopped in the truck They hadn't even finished tying the items up on the back, but I screamed, "Let's go! Let's go now! Let's go now!" And as we were pulling off, I couldn't help but look in the rearview mirror. And out of the doorway comes this dark figure. Didn't have a face. The only thing that could have made it look somewhat human was the arm and the long, abnormally long fingers that wrapped around the doorknob and slammed the door closed. We never went back. In fact, we never even contacted the landlord to let him know that we had completely moved out. We didn't even want our deposit back. We wanted nothing to do with that place. I never did find out who had lived there before us or what the history of the place was. For years afterwards, my girlfriend and I had nightmares. A few times I even swore I heard that entity saying my name. The only thing that made us feel better is about 6 years after we left, the place completely burned down. We had been the last tenants. Nobody wanted to live in it after we left. So it sat, I would say empty, but something was in it. I got the chills just telling you about this. Still haunts me to this day, but thankfully it's just a memory. Judd from Kansas, thank you so much for submitting your real life experience. I appreciate you. And to everyone listening, Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a supporter of Paranorleans, the Paranormal New Orleans podcast. Feel free to submit your own experiences to be featured here at fatgirlfreestyle@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, Fat Girl Freestyle channel. And make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at Fat Girl Freestyle. And if you're feeling generous, Venmo at Fat Girl Freestyle. And PayPal at fatgirlfreestyle@gmail.com. Please make sure you are sharing the podcast with your friends, family, and loved ones. Let everyone know. Let everyone know that we tell the stories of the strange, the spooky, the scary, paranormal, otherworldly, and unexplained. This has been Fat Girl Freestyle. I'll see you next time.